Wonderful. There we are. We're connected now. Thank you, everybody. Namaste. Look, my little snake over here. Let me leave the picture. You can see the beautiful woman talking to the sacred mother serpent. So this is Nana Kasha, and this is the Infinite Show. And today we're going to start exploring the year that we're entering. So we're into 2025. However, to me, the Chinese New Year, the Chinese astrology, in the sense of that it is a year of a particular animal, a particular element, a particular color, and a particular gender, a particular polarity, is very profound, because this is a science. It's a spiritual technology, right? And what we have with that is the ability to move more and more and more consciously through our lives and understand the spiritual weather. So the spiritual weather, when you're in a different sign of the zodiac, is a different energy. When you're in the full moon versus the new moon, there's a different energy. If you're in the eclipse, there's a different energy. Depending on the actual weather, there's a different energy. Everything in the earth, there's more earth energies than you could possibly imagine. And they're coming in ley lines and spirals and chimneys and grids, and they're constantly shifting depending on the time of day, moving eras. Literally, they can track the inner movement of this pulse of the earth within, moving and watching civilizations rise where it was. So energy moves in a undulating form. It moves up and down through time. It moves through day and night. When we talk about form, we talk about manifesting. When we talk about this, we are moving up and down through time, through space, through what we perceive good or bad in reality. So what we have now is this ability to understand we've just coming out of the dragon year. Well, people love dragons now. So really that idea got a lot of popularity. A lot of people tuned into that. Chinese astrology, the Chinese energetic perspective of these cosmic energies. So we really could see the reflection of the dragon energy in last year. It was big and it was powerful and it was masculine and it was building things, and there was a lot of hope and a lot of growth and then a lot of change. And then as things came to the end of the year, there seemed to be kind of a breakdown as the dragon begins to shed and become the serpent, which is really, they're very similar, right? They undulate, they move. But we're moving in to a serpent year that is specifically energetically a earth energy. Serpents move on the earth, in trees, and through water. Physically, their physical form. Now, they have also all of this other energy that is so gorgeous, because energetically and spiritually, this is a being that's embodying. It's a totem. It's a spirit guide. It's a symbol. It's a representative of a flow of energy, of a particular perspective, of a particular way of seeing things. This is part of interspecies communication, understanding on the many intuitive levels what the medicine, what the personality, what the strengths, what's the expertise, what are the powers, what is the qualities of a particular animal or a particular flower or herb or moon phase. Okay, so the sacred serpent is what this year is about. And the world has been taught that snakes are evil, that serpents are evil, that they represent the devil. And it's been really pounded into most consciousnesses that this is how you perceive this. So let's look quickly at what the serpent means. It means things like the Kundalini rising. It means things like your life force coming into balance between the masculine and feminine, and then being able to open up and rise inside of you so that you can grow from that place. You can rise. But what happens? You know, the caduceus, it does this. It's two snakes. And it's the symbol on hospitals. Why? Because in the ancient times, Greece in particular, they knew serpents and snakes to be wise healers. They would cover their healing temples, the floors, with snakes. And when people would sleep in their healing temples, the healers would watch them sleep, and they would watch the snakes and the serpents, and we would watch them as to see what they did. Did they go to the foot? Did they lick the toe? Did they weave around it? Did they all stay away from that one person? Did they gather up? How did they act? What was the symbolism? How did they communicate? They knew they were wise healers. They trusted them implicitly. The sacred serpent or snake is, I see that Geraldine, our guest, is here, but she kind of disappeared from there she is. Hi, from the stage. Hi, Bernie.
It's so wonderful to see you.
Wonderful to see you. So we're just getting going. We're talking about the new year, right? The year that we're coming into, the year of the serpent, the snake, and how the whole world's been programmed to fear snakes, to fear, to think it's evil, to devils, and that it's really been around the idea of separating from your own power, your direct access to life force, to
Right.
your own power within your body, your own expansion, your ability to mix your own chemicals to create an alchemical experience, right? To transform and transmute your light body into a luminous light body, that you're now no longer attached to the old fears, the old traumas, to have the healing that everybody's seeking right now. So when we're moving from the dragon year, there's a lot of energies in medicine that you got from the dragons. And I want everybody to remember that you want to take the next, few days. What do we have here? A week. We have a week until the official transition, right, into the year of the snake. And take that time to sort of really be with this energy. Like, it's not going to go away, but you're leaving this journey you've just taken this last year with this dragon energy. And what powerful energy, how it's changed things by bringing that very powerful masculine energy of building and change and expansion and thinking big and breaking down barriers. Now we're going into a yin year. This is a feminine energy. This is an earth being, moves through water or earth, moves in a way that undulates with the frequencies, that creates a frequency that teaches to go through life. So the cultures that we like, where I am, the Mayan magic that I study, their number one god is Kukulkan or Quetzalcoatl to the Aztecs, and that's a feathered serpent god. And that's the sun. That's the representation of the sun coming down like this and coming down, and then becomes the guide to guide you back to your spirit, to guide you back out of your perception that you're only human, back to your source. And as you rise in consciousness up the pyramid here, represented in states of consciousness, you follow that. But what do serpents do? They shed. They literally shed their skin, their identity, who they thought they were, what they looked like. And the rattlesnakes here, the sacred rattlesnake that all the Mayan culture is built on, every time they shed, they grow a new rattle. And the rattle represents the crown chakra. So every time they shed the old self, they now have a whole new layer of a crown chakra, so to speak, an antenna to the divine that they embody. And that's the same for us. And then the feathered part is telling you you're connecting back to your higher self, to the feathers, to the spirit, to that higher aspect of it. So the whole year is going to be an unfolding and a shedding and a really coming down into earth. But that also means healing and grounding and riches and foundation. So those are a few of the things. So I want to share, Geraldine, with everyone. I am going to put your bio up because I couldn't possibly remember it all. And I want people to at least see it because it's quite amazing so they understand. And I also want everyone to know that we are putting on, I'm putting on with Neil at Portal to Ascension, a beautiful workshop on 2/2 on February 2nd. And I'll share that with you. You go to the Portal to Ascension website. It's a .org, and you will find it there. And you can join Geraldine and I and Neil and several other people. And this is our entire topic. And it's going to be fascinating because it's so many different perspectives on the energy that we just talked about. So let me share with everybody and say hi. Hi, Inga. Hi from, is that Denmark? Where are you? It's so tiny. Hi, Deb. Oh, good to see you, sweetie. Good. So say hi. I don't know if you're there until you say hi. Feel free to put any questions you want. So I'm going to introduce Geraldine. We're going to get into an amazing conversation. You're going to be stunned by her experience, her perspective, the things that she's done, but how this then is going to be how she's going to share this opportunity for transformation in the year of the snake. And I want to say thank you to my Chris for making us this cute little image here of our glowing snake. So here's the event that we're doing with Portal to Ascension coming up in just over a week. So it's just after we tip into the actual Chinese New Year. But the beauty is we picked 2/2 because, of course, this is good energy, right? So 2/2/25 is 2/2/7. And so that's also a very interesting, beautiful number. So you can see there's Geraldine. We have Bridget Renee Holiday, Donna Stellhorn, which many of you know. She's coming on the show in a few days, or I think in about a week. Neil and I, and maybe even a special guest. Okay. So we're having today an incredible conversation that's going to just, I think, Geraldine, that you're going to blow everybody's minds, which is perfect. It's exactly what we need. Right?
Thank you so much for having me on and inviting me. I'm so excited to have this conversation.
Yeah, it's such a perfect time because we have to Spirit's been saying through me a lot about grow up, mature spiritually.
Right.
We're not in the new age anymore. Stop playing with your victimhood and your trauma and start to use it for power. And what a better symbol than the transformational opportunities right in this. So I'm going to share a little bit about Geraldine because she has discovered the multidimensional power of DNA reprogramming. And this is really relevant because all of us know that as you shed your old beliefs, they usually happens very quickly in a huge traumatic experience. Your beliefs change very quickly with no effort. Sometimes you chip away at them, but in some sense, it's how can you unhook energetically to something and then connect to something. It's 1414, by the way, on my computer at the time. So now we're looking at the potential for transmuting these old negative paradigms, trauma, limiting beliefs, and mindsets this year, revealing this. We talked a little bit, touched on the Kundalini and shedding of the old limits and identity. So this is Geraldine. You're going to find her there. Is it Orozco?
Yes, Orozco. Perfect.
Okay, perfect. So herbeautifulname.com. And it's going to be, if it's not already, it should be underneath the video here and in the email. So if you subscribe at nanakasha.com, if you subscribe here on the YouTube channel, you're going to be able to find her. So you have an opportunity to connect with an incredible woman. So just take a look at this. She's been seen on over 500 shows on Gaia, Travel Channel's UFO Witness, Unidentified Witness. And then get this, her story is part of a 16-time award-winning documentary called Extraordinary: The Seeding. She's founded something called hybridmother.com. She's on the board of Opus. This is an organization for support of paranormal studies. And she's currently writing her first book, which is really awesome. I love it. I'm a writer too. The Origins of DNA and the Human Hybridization Program, exploring the biophysical architecture, hybridization programs, and reexamination of the dissemination of knowledge around everything that's been happening historically now, because we have this advanced opportunity to accelerate our healing and transmutation. And it is definitely affecting our biological structure, which I'm sure you're going to share with us. So she's also created a healing modality called DNA reprogramming, and it combines epigenetic psychotherapy and a thorough understanding of the life force runways through the body, which I love as a light body healer, and identifying, transmuting, and healing the body and soul, written with DNA. So this is deep work, beautiful work. The programs you founded since 2007, I was looking at, really amazing. I love the deprogramming techniques to release trauma-based belief, because just don't go head to head with it, just go around, unhook it, let it free. If you love it, set it free. So now we're going to let you start to share about how you started to access and navigate your etheric body, connect the emotional and ancestral memories, and had this fully conscious interdimensional contact experience, right? And then begin to map the multidimensional body. So you can see why I wanted to sort of just give you guys this so you can peruse it, you can take a look, kind of get an idea of this amazing, beautiful guest that we have coming. And just to remind you to go over to the shop or to come on Thursday, because we've got our Mayan Magic Retreat and our Dolphin Healing Light Weaving Retreat coming up in March. Okay, so thank you so much for being here. This was just such a delight to have you hop on over here and get to connect.
Thank you so much, Nan. Thank you for putting that together. That was so beautiful and professional, and I'm so grateful for that. Thank you.
You're so welcome. So obviously you've had this absolutely fascinating life. Like, why didn't, of course they made a documentary on it. So for assuming that people don't understand a lot of what I just said about you, give us an idea of, the things that were really powerful, that both were challenging, but that led to this enlightenment and to these amazing states of consciousness, awareness, and healing modalities.
Yeah, well, I've been kind of meditating, and I grew up in a very spiritual family since I was a child. But in 2008, my partner passed away, and that really catapulted me into the questioning of who we are, what are we doing, and if we're following the narrative of what you think is regular life, why aren't things working the way they're supposed to be working? So I wanted to get an understanding of these karmic laws, or cause and effect. How does that function exactly? So I went into retreat for about 4 months, was meditating maybe up to 9 hours a day. And it took me into a very, very deep dive into my own DNA reprogramming. This is where I learned how to do DNA reprogramming, which is what I do now with my clients. But in 2013, something unexpected happened. That October, one evening at 3:33 in the morning, I am woken up by a brilliant white light in my room. And essentially, I walk to the window, I look outside, and my body paralyzes, and I'm being taken out of my room through the wall on top of the garage roof. And to the right is this gigantic lenticular emanation of light, and from there comes 6 beings that then manifest into grays. Grays, what we know commonly as grays. That was the structure of their face, like gigantic dark black eyes, gray bodies, but very gentle and very kind. And even though I was terrified, I never seen such
Yeah.
a thing before, it was my introduction to the interdimensional, because although I've had experiences through my life, never as vivid and clear and tangible and physical as this experience. And also, for some reason, throughout my life, didn't connect interdimensionality with aliens, or what we think of as aliens, or beings,
Mm,
interdimensional beings.
right. Yeah.
my idea was they were light orbs. They were light when I was a child. They didn't have such form. So essentially, that I was taken on board craft, and I was taken to the planet Pleiades, where I was shown that I was Pleiadian. Those were my origins, or one of my lineages, essentially. And I had lived many lives there more recently, and my life in this incarnation was deeply connected with the work I had been doing in these timelines, which are simultaneous, and I'll explain that in a minute. But essentially, I was then introduced to children that were shown to be mine, and they were introduced to me as hybrid children. And I began to connect with them and immediately began to have all the memories of being with them, actually bringing them to life. Not in our traditional manner, of course. And that's what the documentary is about. It's about the hybridization program, not just my experience, but other women and men that have experienced these kinds of things. So as a result of that, which was completely mind shattering, I went into it thinking, let's talk about karma. And I went out of it thinking about multidimensionality and creating life interdimensional. Like, what does that mean? What is the human soul? How do we function? And what are the parameters of our multidimensionality? So I began to deep dive into that. And in 2017, I went into hypnotherapy to review some of my childhood experiences with my contact. And that's when I began to download, and I was shown a map of the world and the origins of humanity from their inception. It began to show me the bloodlines that were not purely what we know as human. In fact, our human race being a product of hybridization and hybridized consciousness, essentially. So that's where the information came out about holographic DNA. I was shown DNA at its molecular level, how it functions, and how we navigate that. None of these experiences are done with ayahuasca or any kind of drug. By the way, all of this is organic. Done through meditation. And I'm kind of a big, I really promote that. I promote that it's really important to do deep, deep integration of our activation of DNA, because actually it creates an entire different structure in the body, which is deeply connected to our DNA. So that's really important. So that's how I got started.
Yeah, beautiful, amazing. And it is really important that if you want to try like a, plant medicine for a particular experience, but that isn't something that's sustainable, right? You come back in and you want to do these kinds of work, the shamanic work, the work I do, the work Geraldine does, is where you go deeper and you're accessing your own truth, right? Yeah. So when you talk about this idea of a hybridized human, a lot of people go into deep fear. And yet you're talking about it like it was a beautiful experience and it's a loving view of the future. Could you share a little more about that?
Yeah, so there's a couple things. This is a very complex topic, by the way, and I talk a lot about it in my interviews and work that I do, but because it's not so simple. There are many parts that we need to understand. One of them being laws of the universe, which kind of are the natural laws of this construct, which we abide by. We are organic, multidimensional frequency beings. And in that, this vessel, this physical body being one fractal of infinite fractals of ourselves, which exist multidimensionally. All of that information is available to us and beautifully encoded within our DNA. And essentially, ascension, which we think of as ascension, is actually a natural part of this evolutionary cycle. Everything is ascending constantly. We are moving in the direction of ascension. The entire multiverse is moving from one octave to a higher octave, which is what we're going through right now, a major transition. And we're doing micro transitions every moment, every day, every moment that we're breathing. Every moment is an opportunity for a rebirth, which means the ability to access a higher octave of your entire frequency vessel. So that being said, when we abide by these natural cycles of evolution, we begin to align with more pathways of information that are available through our DNA. And that allows us to to astral project. It allows us to become more lucid in our dreaming state. We recall more of our memory. Most of these activities and these experiences, like the hybridization, like contact, like ETs, like beings, are actually taking place in interdimensional realms when we are in dream state. And eventually, those that cultivate their intuition with time begin to integrate them into the waking state. And that's kind of the point of all the work that I do, training intuition and remote viewing and telepathic training, is that we learn how to activate these higher faculties.
Yeah.
And it's the person that begins to develop these abilities that begins to recover memories. And these memories are what we have a concept of time, which is very limited. We think time is quite linear. We think of the past. When we think of the past, it doesn't exist anymore, and the future hasn't happened yet. But in reality, time is a spherical model. Everything exists simultaneously, and that's something that we need to understand, because it's essential to understanding the hybridization program. We are existing in the third dimensional plane. The third dimension is about creation, pure creation, the marriage, the alchemical marriage. The father, the mother unite to create the third. We are that third. We are the creation of that integration, but we are also micro creating in every expression of our existence, in the words that we speak, the vibrational emotions, the thoughts that we think, and in the dimensions in which we navigate out of body. So the hybridization program is the sustainability of this construct, essentially. It's how we bring souls and anchor them into the construct. Now, there are many simultaneous constructs. Again, the Earth is one populated system of what we know as humans, but we function much like cells of this organism called Earth, Mother Earth.
Mm-hmm.
Many planetary systems have their species of beings that also function as those cells. But just like in our human body, every single cell is intercommunicated. We are interconnected by a network of it's a bioelectrical system, which is essentially sustaining a network through quantum non-locality. And in that same way, we are deeply interconnected through these different solar systems, our cousin systems that in which we connect to through portals of our own DNA. Mm-hmm. And we are essentially creating life on many planetary systems simultaneous to now. But the other part, and I'll end here, is that the hybridization program is also the children that we bring into this life. And we have our star seed lineages. One of the things that I'm discovering with my work is that our starseed information is also being passed down through generations. So we have families that are deeply connected with, let's say, the Pleiadian bloodlines are quite available to them in this lifetime. It's also an archetypal self-organizing system of information that becomes available to them. Mm. And it awakens up archetypal aspects that need to heal in those bloodlines. And that's where they start having these kinds of experiences. They remember what they were creating and why. So that being said, it's not something to fear. It's something that we are barely waking our consciousness. We are barely waking up in the middle of a dream. And we don't know what was happening in the timeline of the dream until we wake up consciousness. So in these cases, my invitation is that we learn to develop a 0 point to be able to hold space for all of these potential unknown experiences in waking state and in dream state. It's extremely important, especially now that we master that and not have any fear, but be curious and understand and apply your free will by using powerful discernment.
Oh boy, that's a good one. Yeah. Now, right, with more information than you could possibly consume in 20,000 lifetimes and everybody sharing their opinion, it's more important to master your energy and then just be discerning about what you allow to come into your, right, your awareness, your consciousness, because it's affecting all these things you're talking all the way down to your DNA. That frequency is shifting, and what you believe is creating that, and what what you're still attached to or bonded to is creating that, and what you feel limited by, or your self-image is creating that, and it's going all the way down to that structure. I love how you talk. I love a lot of your words and everything. It's just exactly my experience with this, and I love what you're talking about, because the idea is that we are not meant to stay the same. So everybody being like, oh no, things are changing.
Yeah, and get ready.
Hello, right? And we're in the middle of the decade of metamorphosis, and we're in the middle of the melting our old identity down. And I think at some spiritual level, there's codes that, like an alarm that goes off at a certain point and starts to say, okay, we've got to start upgrading this, and maybe you get sick and you dump a whole bunch of old crap out of your body. Now you can hold a higher frequency, or you have a bigger capacity. Or my partner had what the medical world would call an extremely severe seizure. He died, and it was just really epic. And he was like a newborn. And that was about 5 years ago. And then he's back to, he can function for about half the day and do whatever he wants, but he never felt energy before that. And then he couldn't be near a phone. He couldn't feel anything. He's gotten so that he can actually use his computer, but he has to be on a separate thing. And his hand, the energy coming out of his hand would wake him up. If he goes to sleep and his hand's near him, he'll wake up and be like, so that's an upgrade. We were just at a dinner party last night, and the people there were like, wow, you were totally upgraded. Now it's time for you, now you've recovered your ability to function in the 3D world now. And it sounds to me, it's like these things are happening that you're talking about, this DNA reprogramming, or releasing or dumping the old programs. Right, for people. So tell us some more ways this is either blocking people, or maybe the opportunities that they've had they don't see as opportunities and challenges.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, actually, talking about the year of the snake, we have a couple main themes, and I put some notes down because this is actually one of the main themes of this year, is working with our ancestral. It's okay. So 9 is the beginning of period 9. But 9 also symbolizes the last number of the scale of this evolutionary system. And we are then beginning year 1. And essentially, this year represents the ending of karmic cycles, like profound ending. Last year was about repeating and being caught in these karmic cycles and existing in that karma and reliving and experiencing and essentially being awake to some of the cycles that we've been dormant about. And it's just really highlighting and bringing those from the suppressions and the shadows of ourselves. So this year, now that we are quite aware, we've gone through major wake-ups, and pretty much the half of this year, we're going to still continue that major wake-up call of those things. By the 5th month already, we're going to be feeling the potency of this year, essentially. But we are learning how to end ancestral karmic cycles, because for those of you that are doing shadow work, you're beginning to recognize that some of the challenges that you're having are actually cyclical patterns that have been coming down your ancestral lineage for generations. And this is extremely important right now, because as we create and we enter into a new era, everything will change this year. It'll change with artificial intelligence. It's going to change with the way, with technologies that are going to be exploding and transforming our world as we know it. And it's also going to shift the role of the human back to its natural connected form to nature, which means that we need to recognize what are the natural cycles of this universe, of this earth. And are you deeply connected to the earth? And are you listening, talking to the trees, connecting with the natural cycles of water? I mean, all of the 5 elements are necessary for us to deeply integrate. And the 5 elements are connected to our organs, they're connected to our emotional states and our archetype. archetypal overlays, which are kind of running some of these shadow aspects of ourselves. So this year is about working and getting to know what are those ancestral programs. And I'm talking about deep, deep things. One of the areas that is going to be quite highlighted this year is looking at sexuality, sexual energy, the Kundalini energy, which is what is called now. Kundalini, as I mentioned, is every single chakra. It simply means moving life force. And we are waking up the dormant and shadow aspects of our life force that is in the chakra system. So the Kundalini being your sexual energy, your most powerful primordial life force. It is the core of your DNA, the information that has been passed down through generations, everything that you are working with subconsciously. So it'll change. We are changing the way we look at sex. We are changing our understanding of sex, and it will transform humanity's deep hypnosis. And because humanity, because we are so ignorant of what sex energy actually is, we are deeply manipulated by it in very profound ways. And it's one of the ways that the human potential stays completely dormant, because sexual energy is deeply connected to our intuition. It is the healing of the divine feminine, of the womb, of the creation energy. So right now, it is the healing and the rising of the feminine, which is connecting the root with the higher systems, your third eye and your crown being your center of co-creation. Your crown is your gateway to the higher self. So anytime that we are severed or disconnected from the physical and the interdimensional, we are completely lost, and we will be even more lost in these years as we continue going. So it is gently and lovingly forcing people to come into their multidimensional mastery. It is so important that they do.
Yeah. And the power of it is, I mean, I remember the first early on in my breakdown that led to my spiritual awakening. I moved to New Mexico at one point, and I got the medicine cards, which are like Native American animal cards that were one of the few decks available at the time. And that energy of the snake was, like most people, a fear thing, right? Especially with Christianity labeling it the devil. But when you understand that everything is an archetype and energy, even the Bible is written that way psychologically to make you understand your energy system, it's saying that, you know, stay away from your own ability to be a creator until you're really ready to own that power. And then you have to go from where you are back into that divine flow in a way. And what I've seen here is that the snakes in the Maya land, we go to the pyramids and we're like communicating with the Kilkukan or different energies of the serpent guide. And that first deck, I pulled that serpent card or that snake card, and it was a snake like that. I remember there was eggs around it. I think it had rattles on it. And I kind of was like, oh no, it must be a bad message, right? And then it said transformation. And I just stared at it, and it took me 6 months at least, you know, being new at the whole concept of symbolism and everything, to really understand the deep layers of that opportunity. And that's what we're going through, like you said, gently nudging us, but really moving us forward on that. When we go here, we've literally seen the snake skins, and they're always hanging off of something rough. So we were at a Mayan site called Kaaba, and everybody was sitting in front of this big temple covered in rain god masks. And we have epic experiences there. Crystals change and we levitate. It's really a stunning place. And so we finished our activation. Everybody's like, "Ooh, yay." We're comparing our crystals and we're walking around, and then we walk along the wall to go around to the other side of the temple to see some other things. And we stop and say, "Oh, let's take a picture right here." Everybody sits against the wall, the temple's behind them, and all of a sudden I see right here at the shoulder, hanging out of the rough rock of the wall, a snake skin. Right? And then sometimes you see them hanging out of a thorny bush or something. And so what they've taught me, because they've been working with this energy for a while longer, but really in the last 9-10 years here with the Mayan culture, because it's their number one empowerment guide. And when you realize I'm guiding you back to your truth, and if you'll just trust me and let go, right? It's shed and reprogram your DNA, right? Change your thoughts. You might have to go through something that you perceive as rough to get that old identity away from you, but everything is working for you.
Right, right. And we are biologically built that way. We are bioelectrical systems. And how does bioelectricity function? How do you create conductivity? Is that incredible transduction system that allows to create, it forges the diamond from the coal, right? And that is the alchemy that we're talking about. And that's another major theme that's going to be this is kind of like the launching pad for this new era that we're coming into. So pay attention, because these aspects of self-healing, self-regenerating, alchemizing yourself are what will uh, align you in higher harmony with the natural cycles of this world. And that's essentially what we want to do, because anytime that you start to feel pain, suffering, you are gently coming out of alignment, or you are stuck in a lower frequency state, mind, body, and soul. So one of those have to be gently adjusted to continue to align. That's really what ascension is. And that's really all we're doing, is simply aligning with these natural cycles, each time on a higher octave. And the transmutation element of this is to transform one form of energy into a higher. So whatever emotions you begin to feel, this is a very simple practice, is to just observe. Train your observer to begin to sustain long times of observation. How do those emotions feel in the body? Every part of your body is storing information. And wherever you are contracting, that's where your life force is tied up and blocking the transduction ability of your body to come into higher conductivity. We talk about gold, and we talk about all the ancient civilizations that talked about gold and the importance of that. And they were all talking about the alchemy, because essentially the human begins to develop elements of gold in the body by clearing the pineal gland and beginning to create some of that chrism, or that Christ consciousness development from the pineal gland. This is the alchemy. And this year is very much about that. It's about working with pulling up energy from your primordial storage of energy in the perineum. So literally breathing perineum energy up the spine, up into the pineal gland. This is where you start to clean up. But what happens is that energy won't move up if you have a lot of stagnant emotions and belief systems that are stored here in the chakra bodies. So developing the empathy and intuition to begin to read your energy body on a daily basis, not just once in a while or at a retreat, daily, momentarily bring yourself into the body, so that you can feel the environment with yourself and understand what belongs to you and what doesn't. So these, I have a very simple acronym called GPAC: grounding, protecting, which simply means owning your energetic space. Imagine that you're in a bubble and you understand how to work with that energy. Aligning, which means working proactively with your chakra bodies, because guess what? Your chakras are your filters of perception. They are also the holographic projection of your DNA. So at any time that we are moving through these cosmic movements, like full moons or alignments of planetary systems, remember that you are a fractal of this universe, and those movements are highlighting or affecting certain aspects that you are holding within your planetary system, because each chakra is connected to a planet as well. And so the more you are disconnected from your body, the more you will feel these things. The more you begin to integrate them, you will be able to transcend the negative effects of your astrological sign, the negative effects of these deep cosmic movements, and come into harmony. That's essentially the thing. The body begins to open up this source cord, where they begin to allow source through the body in a very proactive manner. And essentially, cleaning this ancestral programs is what we're going to be clearing from the body. So alchemizing the programs of old belief systems that maintained stagnation, limitation, fear-based belief systems, contractive energy systems are all going to cause problems. And this year is very much about the small intestine as well. That's deeply connected with the fire element. That is the main element of this year. And that has to do with, are you nourishing yourself with things that are deeply, deeply healing and nourishing for your body? Are you mindful and conscious of the connection that you have with your actions and its effect on your organism? Also, the small intestine is the one that absorbs the nutrients into the body. So are you integrating deeply these things into the body to provide healing for you and your upcoming generations? So those are a couple of things that are really coming up.
Yeah, it's interesting too, because it's so literal almost when you learn to understand the symbology of the energy, right? The map of the stars reflected on Earth, or you reflected there, and how you can use these energies. It's like understanding the weather. You don't go to the beach in a hurricane for a picnic. So, you say, okay, this year's about this energy, right? And that dragon energy also gave people a lot of, I think, I don't like that word, but okay, false confidence, in the sense that, not that you shouldn't be confident, but that sort of like a puffed up ego in a way, right? That it's good to have that, to feel that confidence, that power, those abilities. And yet now we're coming down to earth, right? We're coming down into this.
Yeah.
I like that you said something, the way you described it was, you're moving from efforting it to effortless. This is allowing yourself to evolve, to not fear what you were designed to be, what's unfolding from within you, because it knows, just the way a seed knows how to grow. You don't have to know. And it's creating the right environment.
Yes.
So is there a way that, I want to see, there was a word you said here, alchemize these old beliefs, and the idea of taking that natural state, you're both reconnecting to like an origin state. But when you're breathing up, you're doing that kundalini, and you were saying about, if you have stored blocks, that's the problem. The two, they
Yeah.
come up, and this one's not equal, and they're supposed to be equally crossing and creating those, connection points, and then they pour into that third eye. Right. And that energy is what really opens everything. So if it's effortless to alchemize beliefs, which I highly encourage everybody to choose that truth for yourself, it's effortless for me to do this. Is that reprogramming your DNA? When you literally do in some other way, you're able to transmute a belief into something that was holding you back, into something that's empowering.
Yeah, so epigenetically, which is essentially that's what I am. I'm an epigenetic psychotherapist. Essentially, I focus, but I take it to another level because I look at the interdimensional element as well. But essentially, epigenetically is essentially all of the effects of the external and internal that are affecting the protein writing process of your DNA. Your DNA is writing 2% of that. Only 2% of that writes everything. Everything. I mean, all the complexity, things that we don't even understand of the human body, is being written in that 2%. But of course, there is more to our DNA. What we have been calling junk DNA is essentially communicating with your field, which is what is known as the morphogenetic field. The morphogenetic field, you can kind of think of it as an instruction manual that brings into form. It tells my cells to stop building skin up in here, the finger up in here, the hair, in the way that it does. There's a certain architecture to our body, and your body will take on the form that you create into it. Okay, so you speak it, you think it, you feel it, you eat it, toxins or natural things that are around you and how they're affecting you. You can literally work with your cells in order to absorb into the body information that is toxic or repel it. And this is something that there are many wonderful papers written on this topic. The HeartMath Institute did a wonderful study on how DNA, when we are in a constant state of stress, literally contracts into a little ball. DNA is not able to fully express all of its information. Rather, when the human was able to come into meditation, the DNA would elongate, it would expand, and it would come into symmetry and sacred geometry, which is what we are. It comes into an organized system of harmony. And that is where the DNA, because everything is sound, frequency, and even music, sound that is frequency. Your human body has a certain frequency note that it's emitting. So when we come more into harmony, we begin to harmonize all the systems of the body. We have an energy center called the lower dantian, middle dantian, and upper dantian. These three centers need to be integrated, but the missing link and the integration point is the heart. So the transmutation process and how you take a lower form of frequency into a higher is through the heart. How do you alchemize your fears? So the root pertaining to your security, your safety, do you feel good in your body? And all of those ancestral programs, because those after slavery, war, rape, abuse, all of these things are stored in the memory of our DNA. And we pass it down, scientifically proven 20 generations. However, in the morphogenetic field, what we're showing is that memory is stored bioelectrically. So the more that you become conduit, so let me put this, the more you clean up, which means transmute lower limiting belief systems. So when I say lower, we're not talking about good or bad. What we're talking about is more harmonious or inharmonious, more balanced or imbalance. That's really what we're talking about. And it's important to understand that because every part of our shadow is deeply important. We need to be deeply connected to our shadow. We need to know the shadow rather than run away or try to overlay it with happy ideas or thoughts. That never
or
works.
hate it, right? Or judge it, or reject it, or hide it, or drag it around locked in a prison, to us. That's what we've been doing.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But I love that you're saying it's because you've got to reconnect and love all of you. So a lower, if you guys know, we work with the scale of consciousness. So a lower state would be a 4 state. It would be, shame and guilt and blame and anger and craving and all these low states of consciousness where you don't have enough frequency, enough energy, right, to unravel that DNA, probably not at those states you can't see. And a higher state is anything from courage, willingness, neutrality, acceptance, being very powerful. And it doesn't really require you to know anything. Acceptance is just like, okay, this is what it is. And then forgiveness and harmony and compassion and transcendence all start to happen. So it's so interesting to think about how we can see this happening in our lives with our mind and our beliefs and the reflection in our worlds, and then to think that the DNA is in there, responding to it as well. Like curling up when you said that, it just like shrinks onto itself, or it's like protecting itself, or preserving the seed through the drought, or something like that. And then unraveling right into this beautiful aspect. So Deb asked, what 1 to 3 things can we do or practice to ease our flow of transmutation into what we are to become?
To ease the flow into transmutation. So make it a little easier and smoother.
Yeah. I think a lot of that is like shed it, like we're just going to strip your clothes off and you're going to stand there naked in the square, like it's gone now and ouch and it hurts. And, we've all been through a lot of, big intense transmissions now. And so, joining the process and seeing the result you want is what I would say. But let's see what Geraldine says.
Absolutely. I mean, the thing is that we are really well versed up until now because we've been dealing with a lot of imbalanced masculine in our construct over the past couple centuries, which is changing now. We are the emerging of the feminine is essentially creation energies, intuitive energies, trust, profound trust in what? In yourself. We are rewriting the history of humans' idea that the human is a victim, it is a slave, it is disconnected, it's powerless, into the rebirth of the human that is actually self-sustaining, sovereign, has powerful free will, strong discernment, and the ability to alchemize and transmute any foreign aspect from this physical body into light and energy. That is what we are. We are bioelectrical conduits of transmutation. And so some of the things that we can do is to become friends with the unknown. And for us, there are two aspects. First of all, we're ashamed of shadow. So sit with your shadow, observe your shadow, the difficult emotions that you've been avoiding. Sit with them and allow the emotions to come out. So just observe the emotion, and you're going to name out the emotions that begin to come up. You can have a paper with you, or you can do it in deep meditation. You're going to begin to uncover the layers of your emotions. And this is what I do in DNA reprogramming. We find the root of the emotion and we transmute that. How do we transmute that? We become familiar with the opposite, with positive emotions. Some of us have never felt peace before. We don't even know what harmony is. We don't really know what love is. So we are learning compassion with ourselves, profound compassion, in order to be able to get familiar with what it feels like truly to feel peace and harmony in the body and integrate it into ourselves, discarding of really the false survival mechanisms that we've adopted, such as personalities, such as identities. These have to essentially, be released. That's actually what we're releasing. Any attachment that we have made to ideas and concepts of ourselves is now being expanded into both sides. What is true? There's many potential truths that are available that make something real. So when we're in a state of fear, we're only looking at one tiny perception. We need to broaden our perception into all things. We need to see other people's perception. Allow that. So this is a good way to expand your perception. And the third, which I will say, is develop your intuition. Use your intuition and practice it every moment so that you can begin to become lucid even in your dream state. This is where we begin to wake up consciousness and begin to choose our experiences that we're having, essentially.
Mm. So what's interesting is like easing your transition and integrating with the idea of ease is in general as a concept, as part of the construct of your life, or as the frequency you want your light body or your DNA to resonate with, right? Putting that into sort of into the ingredients of the recipe of your desired, future end result that you're, connecting with energetically, right? So one thing that Spirit's been saying through me for quite a while is that we're not stuck with our DNA. That it's not like the doctors are saying, oh, well, you're going to have breast cancer because your mom had breast cancer, so let's chop them off now. Like you don't have to get diabetes if your family has had diabetes. And then what they show me is that they say you can flip like little switches or breakers, almost like which connections are connected, which train lines are connected, which ones aren't. It's one way of looking at like that unraveling or that easing. And I'd love to hear your perspective on that. It just in terms of like that really helping people understand that what we have been taught in a lot of ways, but really the medical community has convinced people that you're stuck and you're doomed. And that might be financially, your family says, oh, we're not the lucky ones or we're not the rich ones. It could be that you're all going to get a disease. But whatever it is, and then you think about what you described as this little tiny DNAs in there going like, stop being mean to me and thinking bad things. I want to come out and create some happy things, right? So share a little bit about that.
Yeah, so essentially, these programs are pretty deeply ingrained into us, and they are passed down through generations. Okay, so for example, in the example of cancer, The patterns, the emotional, psychological, and physical and spiritual environment that was created from past generations in order to create cancer and essentially turn the genes on and off to create the perfect inharmonious environment inside of the body, is what is passed down. This is quite memorized in the system, and it's passed down through generations. That's epigenetically what is available to us, as part of our ancestral history. However, if and of course, when you're born, from the womb until the age of 7 is where we begin to integrate. Our full 7 chakras develop until the age of 7, and we also deeply create our subconscious system, our thoughts, emotions, memory system is all inherited and enhanced and reinforced in those 7 years. From there, personalities are created. Ideas, strong identities are created, patterns of behavior, muscle memory, how we contract our muscles when someone says something to us, how do we have a regulated nervous system or not. All of these factors are affecting the environment that we're either replicating. Chances are from those 7 years, we've took on a lot from mother, father, family members, adopted families as well. It's all ancestral and genetically connected through a network of information. We all come in through resonance. So we through resonance are kind of gathered and grouped together. So we're repeating the same kind of programs, and we bounce off each other, and we complement our energy. So until the human then develops the maturity to become aware of the patterns that are no longer serving a harmonious or inharmonious state, they begin to change. They're going to change their emotional state, which is the number one thing. Your emotions are bioelectrical inputs into a bioelectrical construct, which we call the matrix. It's a holographic system of co-creation. So everything that you believe here in your body, in your subconscious mind, is what is being projected through the DNA like a projector screen into the hologram of experiences.
Yes.
So we need to catch what are we processing in the subconscious mind by being in the present moment, deeply aware and observing, so that we can begin to choose from there a different, more harmonious state. And that is essentially how we no longer create an environment genetically and energetically and karmically. Essentially, karma is cycles. What do? Repeat. You repeat. All you do is repeat. When you're in hypnosis, you go into this repetitive state of hypnosis where you are disconnected. You're just highly suggestible, and all you do is bounce and respond in a repetitive manner. The human that we're coming into now is highly conscious, aware. She is a co-creator, which means that you're choosing to apply your free will. And you don't have free will unless you know that you have it and you apply it into your life. Otherwise, we are victims. Again, those states of consciousness, we are just completely at the mercy of our desires, our unconscious aspects, our fears. So essentially, we can rewrite. It's not only rewriting, but we are turning on and off. DNA is a live thing. It's a live essence of consciousness. It's from which consciousness emerges and is communicating with the rest of our environment. So we are learning how to speak the language of frequency, which is through this physical body. Your life is a frequency. So you can formulate that, change that, transform it as many times as you want in your life. It's also important to understand there is no shame, and there's never a moment when you are disconnected or behind. We are always ascending. The thing is that we trick ourselves into thinking that we are behind, but in reality we are always ascending. You just have to wake up consciousness and come back into harmony. To answer that question again, how do we ease it? Come into harmony. Don't judge the parts of yourself. Don't suppress, don't ignore, don't run away from. Come into harmony, all parts of yourself.
Michael says opinions on Vril. I don't know what that means.
A lot of opinions on Vril. Vril is talking about our primordial life force. It is our sexual energy. And essentially, this is about alchemy, right? So I teach a lot about this, but our sexual energy can be used and transmuted into real, which is infinite life force,
Yeah.
through the alchemizing of lust and the ignorance of use of our primordial life force, like the depletion of your life force, which is the mismanagement of emotions and the mismanagement of thoughts, the disempowerment of the integration of your soul and your physical body, all produce centrifugal movement of your vortex. So your physical body is a vortex, and that's what creates conduit. So when you begin to deplete your energy in a way that you're leaking everything out of your system, you're tired, you're exhausted, and we fall into these cycles of depleting our sexual energy. And of course, especially for the male, they become completely depleted. So in reality, the male is a very powerful conduit of life force energy. When he can transmute that energy into pure love, it now becomes an extremely potent energy of creation and manifestation. And I teach a lot of techniques about this, but another good source is Montauk Chia, who talks about the cultivation of
Right.
life force, which when we come into a divine union with a partner that's also practicing these alchemies, we create pure healing, and both partners can heal each other. The women use sexual energy to heal her organs, just as the man, and vice versa. And of course, you activate and open, because the sexual organs is also the throat. The throat, it's one system, but the output, the higher octave, is here in the crown, which is your creation. So we have two wombs. One womb is here for the divine feminine, but we also have a womb here in our crown. How do we integrate the higher self into the physical realm? So yeah, so Michael, I can't really talk too much about that right now, but please do your research. It's very important. Sexual information is going to come out. Spiritual sexuality will be a new topic moving forward. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I remember, gosh, eons ago, at least 20, 30 years ago, I learned that the amount of sexual energy, quote unquote, that's normal, so to say, is only about, maybe 40%. I don't know what people say now, for actual sexual acts in the physicality. The rest of it, this is creative energy.
Oh yeah.
And that we're meant to transmute that energy into creating whatever, creating worlds, creating health, creating love, creating, a new thing. And so it's that transmutation and transformation of something that we have a very singular, low level consciousness about what that means. If we're like, oh, don't talk about sex, or you can't, oh, sex is bad, or whatever. And of course there's the abuse and all of that. But I grew up in Europe, and other countries have very different opinions on sex, and it has huge difference on their level of self-confidence, their sense of safety in their body. In France, they have sexy kind of shows on at night, and they'll say this is for 12-year-olds and up, and this one's for 16-year-olds and up. And it's teaching people that this is okay and how to do these things in a loving way. And it's totally shocking to people like Americans, who was like, let's hide that stuff under some shame.
That's right. That's right. Well, there's a major manipulation and inversion of what sexual energy is. And I mean, even though they're very open about their sexuality, there is still the connection of sex directly connected to pleasure, or instant pleasure and instant gratification. That is kind of like the inversion of what is true and what is natural. Because when we talk about the cultivation of real, for example, or higher octave sexual energy, we're talking about becoming whole body sexual organisms, because we are pure creators. And if we have wounding in our sexual energy, or shame or fear of our sexuality, we will not be able to come into our full creation potential in any part of our life. And I see this in my sessions every single day. People that have blockages with money, for example, or abundance, are deeply have deep wounds, ancestral wounds of sexuality somehow in the lineage. And this is also affecting interdimensional travel tremendously. This is where the hybridization program starts to be parasitic. We start to have entities, attachments, and these become more traumatic experiences. So remember that because we're one and we're deeply connected, how we use this sexual energy in a way that is pure, which is very different. The purity of sexual energy is pure love. And unfortunately, our human race is still very nascent in understanding love. But we're going to get there. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I know it's a very abstract concept even now for many people to say, well, I've never felt love, or I don't know what it would feel like to be loved, or, I don't love myself, or clients who say to me, you know what I want? I just want to be able to look in the mirror and think, I love you. I love myself. And there was a time a long time ago, I could not say that. I almost would have a nervous breakdown if someone asked me to say that. It went against everything that says fear, fear, fear. But what's fun about this is it's just another layer, right, of this transmutation, this kundalini, this reclaiming your power, your inner life force, and transmuting. And it's going to be happening whether you're on the road or not. So I loved how you were bringing up, like, if you try to hold on to the old ways, or if you believe in these negative aspects about what's happening, you're going to create struggle. It's going to be more suffering and more painful than moving forward with the transmutation and being like, well, maybe, like Deb, she says, I'm hoping to avoid future painful physical things like a broken arm because the process of becoming your future self. And Deb is a client of mine. So I was like, okay, I'm going to bring this up in the class, because it's like you're projecting a future by saying that. You're deciding if there's a broken arm in my future and I want to avoid it, then don't think about the broken arm. Think about happily moving forward, healthy, and so on. You literally, everybody, you're creating that. So that's a good thing to shed.
Yes, 100%. That's, and we're waking up from trauma, like deep trauma. So, it's going to get rough a little bit in the next couple of years, because we're going to have to see those parts of us that have been in those unconscious states of repetition, not understanding how we attach to ideas of pain, suffering. We are fascinated by suffering. We can think of 20 ways of surviving, but you can't think of 20 ways of loving. You're not familiar with that, So this is the change. The new human is a multidimensional being of harmony, of love, and that love is a unifying force of coherence. This is how we enter into unity consciousness. And the new abilities like telepathic abilities and remote viewing, this has to be a must for every human moving into this new generation, actually. So get ready, guys. You have to develop these abilities. Take the time to do it.
Yeah. I remember, gosh, I think at least 25 years ago, I was, communicating more and more with spirit. And one of the things I kept hearing is, if you don't develop your skills of imagination or visualization, that's kindergarten. If you don't go to kindergarten, how are you going to build these other worlds, And it's like, yes, we've been threatened. We've been told imagination is silly and stupid, and, all the different things that's what we're stepping out of. And the age of Aquarius is not about let's all be one and bond ourselves into slavery because we have to do that for each other. It's, I'm my individual spiritual self. You're your individual spiritual self. I don't know what you're up to, but go do your groovy thing. I'm going to do my groovy thing. And you're only acting from that, what you were talking about, from love, and that being that ultimate, that there's more than enough for everybody.
Exactly. And that's where we're going to. It's going to be hard for people because, we're so used to the construct of surviving and having 9-to-5 jobs. But what will happen is that AI will take catapult and light speed into the transformation of this humanity. Please don't resist this, but use discernment, and also always think of the collective when making the decisions of how we're implementing these systems of AI or robotics. But the bigger picture is that we're going to pass on some of these jobs to these systems, because the human purpose is way more than what we've been using our potential, which is barely, not even 1% of the human potential has been abused for so many centuries. We're going to change that. The human has to come into its real potential, which is we are interdimensional beings that have the ability to travel multiverses through our state for our instantaneous manifestation. And so some of us will be working on those things, and we're going to be bringing healing for this earth with the help of this technology. But it has to be done consciously.
Yeah. And, having fear of anything, attacking anything, judging it as bad, you're resisting, you're creating more of it, you're bringing that energy into whatever it is. And the point is to use wisdom, whether it's spiritual wisdom, it's technological wisdom. These things are here to support us. Like you said, they're here to, how can this help me? How can this save me time? You're not making a slave of another person. You have something that's going to, what I love about Alexa is I can ask her 15 times in a row what time it is. And she never says, oh my God, I just told you that. Right? She just goes, it's 2:15, it's 2:15, it's 2:15. She never even says it's still 2:15. Why you keep asking me that?
Yeah.
So there's seeing things as support, and we're all moving forward, and everything can be used for harming or healing. So what's your intention? Do you fear it and give it power that it's going to take off on its own and give your authority away, or are you going to take it back?
That's right. And consciousness cannot be artificial, by the way. So please do not fear that, because anatomically, biologically, biochemically, bioelectrically, you cannot create artificial consciousness. You can create something similar to that, and with the functions and of that mechanistically, but never organically. Your body is just you're encoded into this universe. You cannot encode. We don't have the potential of encoding. Even extremely advanced civilizations like Pleiadians or Arcturian systems that I've participated in their cities and living, it's a union. It's a communion with technology that helps advance healing and regeneration of planets, and that's my hope for what we're doing. So a lot of the things that are changing in our country, for example, they're changing in that way so that we are forced to make choices that are in harmony with right order and with the regeneration of the earth, regardless of what the laws or rulers are putting out as what the construct is going to look like. We have to, with our choices, with our money, with our energy, with our emotions, be choosing like consciously. So that's part of our responsibility.
Yeah, beautiful. Well, I could talk to you all day long. We talk the same language. This is amazing. That was actually like a beautiful wrapping up of everything. But so give us your little gem for the end, because this has just been full of amazing information, and everybody's going to need to rewatch this and take your notes. And then you've already changed by hearing all of this. You've already shifted your DNA, right? And so when you hear it next time, you can operate from a new level, and you might be amazed at what you hear because of this. So give us a little bit of maybe how all of this that you've shared, this beautiful vision of where we're going, but the fact that it's challenging, how is this year of the snake energy going to support us in this?
Yeah, so the snake is, we're looking at deep, occult, mysterious truths of ourselves. So I think it's supporting us in a way where we need to become friends with the unknown, and that's kind of the homework as a result of this conversation. Please become friends with the unknown, and it's going to support in a way that allows the energy to be proactive and active, more so than last year, because last year was really heavy and dark energy. And this year it's going to be a little lighter, more fluid. The snake is about formlessness. It's about transmutation, mutation. So the more that we allow ourselves to come into the flow, which means come into harmony, which means be in the present moment. That's what it means. It doesn't mean just don't make intentional moves in your life. Have a clear intention that your actions are aligned with your higher self, and be in the present moment as you are living your life. So this year will be very, very conducive of that, essentially. And your intuition is being activated 20 times more. Another thing that's happening is that the sun, we don't have time to talk about it. I'll be talking about this in my presentation, but the sun is deeply connected to our DNA. It's deeply connected to our heart system. And this year, because we're talking about the fire energies, there is a lot of potential of that energy to expand heart energy, intuitive energies in a higher octave. So there will be a lot of solar flares, as usual, as we've been having, and they will affect. So the more you come into less state of resistance, the easier it'll be to flow through these transition states. Okay, be compassionate with yourself, love yourself, not just as an emotion or a romantic concept. Deep, deep compassion, deep, radical self-acceptance and authenticity is the key to coming into harmonious states. So that's all very simple.
Oh, perfect. Perfect. Thank you so much. It's just amazing. I want to just put up, I know you've got it there, but everybody, you can find Geraldine here. And we'll have the link below if it's not there already. And then this is where you can see Geraldine go more into all these fascinating topics, right? And this is an event we're doing. It is free or by donation. Please give a little donation for all the wonderful speakers coming up, sharing their expertise. And make sure that you get this, because you're going to be able to then reaccess it. And think about, this, we're talking about a whole year. And, can you remember back to the beginning of the year of the dragon? I don't, like all the things we thought that were going to happen. So these understandings of some of the deeper energies that are shifting and the possibilities and opportunities that are available for you, it's good to tune into that, right, throughout the year, and go back and be like, okay, all this stuff changed, and go back, oh, okay, here we go. So thank you. Thank you so much, sweetie. I'm just absolutely delighted to get to connect with you deeper. Just beautiful jewels of wisdom, beautiful way of sharing it. So clear, so wonderful. I'm so happy and honored that you're embodying this beautiful message, that you're living your path. Everybody should be inspired by that. Step into your path. Look how you can, unveil truths for people. So thank you. Thank you again.
Thank you so much. And if you want to learn more, you can always check out my YouTube too. I always forget to say it, but you can subscribe to my YouTube at Geraldine Orozco. I have tons of videos there, and yeah, happy to share. Thank you, Nan. It's a pleasure. You're amazing. Thank you for having me on.
Thank you, sweetie. Yay. Yes. So yeah, definitely. If you've got a YouTube channel, we love that, right? Don't we? So what we're going to do now is simply go in and go to complete this with the gratitude to our amazing Geraldine. Wasn't that amazing? I would be taking a lot of notes, right? So see what resonated with you with her sharing, and how we have the opportunity now with so much different energy. The biggest thing that came through a lot of what Geraldine said, which I love, was how this is a divine feminine year. So I want to leave you here on this first of many that we're going to be doing, talking about the energies of this year and changing that fear of what a snake or a serpent represents in some kind of fear-based system, that does represent the undulating, transformational, moving, fluid, flowing aspect that we really want to be moving into this year. Very divine feminine, to be formless, to be like this, and then to be like this, and to really understand that bigger picture. So when I was talking with the sacred Ahau Khan, which is the serpent that is the actual rattlesnake serpent that is only found here on the Yucatan Peninsula, is that inspired the entire Mayan civilization. It was the pattern on the back of this rattlesnake that taught them everything. They did all their science, their architecture, their magic, their art, their music, their astronomy, their astrology. They understood calendars. All of it came from the pattern on the back of this one particular snake. And there was one man who lived here in my town that discovered this and decoded all of their things. And you go to these sacred sites and you start to see, wow, what would that look like if you were from Spain and you believed that a snake was the devil? And you showed up and people had snakes carved all over these huge temples. And they had them set up so that on the equinox, the light would come down and it would look like a snake. And at the bottom, a big carved snake head, right? And they had this sense of reverence for this solar energy, this solar guide. If you're familiar with the Egyptians, they have the solar disk on many of the heads of different gods, goddesses, or pharaohs. And it has the uraeus, which if you look closely, it usually has a little snake wrapped around it and the head coming out here. It's also the snake head that you have coming out here. Ishel in the Mayan culture has a snake kind of wrapped up in a little knot on her head. These all do not represent evil people. These represent an awakening. Just the way that, Geraldine was explaining happens within your DNA and with your structure, and then the multidimensionality of the truth of who you are, you start to be able to perceive, receive, and communicate with more of you without needing to know what that means. So this serpent year, I want you to, on one level, if you have a fear, of course, be careful of snakes that are in person, okay? I met a rattlesnake in person once, and I said no, thank you to that again. And yet I have this divine respect for this feathered serpent, this god, and I understand now why, after working with this particular sacred serpent spirit guide, Kukulkan, why this was so revered as a particular, their perspective of the sun or the solar serpent. So we're going to explore all of those things in the year of the snake. We've got a beautiful collection of speakers. This is Neil is very kind to offer this free or for donation, which we would appreciate. And so you just go to Portal to Ascension, look for Year of the Snake, click on the events, and join us. It's going to be in a little over a week on 2/2. And next week, around the 29th, we're going to have Donna Stellhorn, my favorite astrologer friend, but she's also going to be in our Year of the Snake event because she's so brilliant. She's written books about Chinese astrology. She's just coming out with a Llewellyn book for Llewellyn Publishing about Chinese astrology. And she is such a beautiful interpreter of these spiritual symbols, these understandings of what this means. So essentially, you may go through some big transformations, but your Kundalini is rising. And what we want to do is do that in a balanced way by accepting, like Geraldine said, don't hang on, don't get stuck, you don't need to suffer. But this is totally and truly a shedding of our own old belief systems and our system. So before I close, I want to just get off of the stage here and let you see this. Chris made this for us. And I thought it was so beautiful because it's difficult to make snakes look appealing, right? Everybody's afraid of them. And the beautiful man here who discovered that the Mayan culture was based on this incredibly brilliant, wise healer, as the Greeks believed the snakes were, is that they often don't look loving. People have an innate and programmed fear. You heard Geraldine talk about how your beliefs become embedded within you, right? And are carried on ancestrally. So I loved that she shared that we're going to be offered this year an opportunity to shed ancestral karma. That means old cycles, old beliefs. Beautiful, really beautiful. So what a blessing to have this incredible woman who's been through so much, who's so intelligently and passionately interpreted this into a way of helping people understand. When you resonate with that understanding of a deeper level of what's really happening in your transmutation, it's really helpful. So this was one of the artworks that Chris created. And I thought it was so beautiful because here's just this beautiful, loving gold snake, serpent, life force energy sitting with this beautiful maiden, this beautiful sacred feminine being who is starting to have the fire. You see the fire behind her. She's in deep meditation. She's not in fear. She's not running away. They're looking at each other. They're facing each other. They're eye to eye. They're heart to heart. There's a beautiful healing here. There's almost like a mother, a guidance, a love, a softness in this snake. So if this helps you to feel a little bit of more love for this idea of the snake. So so beautiful. Oh, thank you. Yes, his art is so beautiful. And I was so blessed to we left the house at night. We haven't done that in I don't know how many years. And a lovely lady I met in Glastonbury is here down the beach from me. With a big group of people at a big beach house they rented. It was her birthday. She invited us over last night. They were so kind to create beautiful, organic, gourmet food for Chris and I as we're vegetarians. And it was just honestly so gracious, so beautiful, beautiful, heartfelt people that I have I don't think I've ever enjoyed a party that much. I don't drink anymore. I can't hear loud noise. Chris can't either. We rarely stay up at night. So I used to party in a different way, but now we just don't go. And we didn't know if he'd last 15 minutes or 4 or 5 hours, which we did. And so this is your bliss unfolding, right? And thank you, everybody, for joining us. The Wishes Fulfilled weekly class is working on this. As Grace said, how resonant was this? Isn't it amazing, right? It's just beautifully orchestrated that these things come together at the perfect moment. So thank you, everybody. Have a beautiful and blessed day. Make sure that you connect with me if you're interested in, you can just go over to Portal to Ascension. You sign up over there. Feel free to say, hi, Neil. I saw Geraldine and Nan on Nan's show if you want to. And then I have, if it's not there, we're putting up a calendar link onto the retreat pages in the shop. And so what you do if you are interested in the retreats that are coming up in March, if you know me already, if you're a client already, then just text me directly. Otherwise, you can take a look. There's some things that aren't very I have a lot of time that I could talk to you about that may not be on the calendar, since there's a lot of things happening right now, wonderful things. But we are going to have a beautiful experience learning in infinity light weaving. So remember to join me here on Thursday so that we can dive into infinity light weaving together. And again, the Mayan magic. So the equinox, like Geraldine said, one of the things I want to emphasize this year is this opportunity for transmutation and transformation, rising of your own sacred divine energies, finding the strength and the inner healing, the inner frequencies. So when your Kundalini rises, it's not just that you suddenly become psychic or you heal your body or you have powers of multidimensionality, remote viewing, your intuition goes up, yes, but it means that you're now balanced. You're now walking in a balanced state. And so that's why in the meantime, please work on that balance, work on your emotional field, do these classes I'm offering, do these things other people have. If it truly helps you to free yourself from emotional bondage and believing and projecting into the future that you're going to have bad things happen, so I want to avoid it. That belief in that bad thing happening is keeping it there in front of you. Wanting to avoid it means that it's happening. Being pain-free and in a blissful life is a completely different focus. And so, Deb, I really appreciate you sharing that because it gives us such a strong opportunity for shedding and shifting these old ways of being. So we will play with the dolphins and infinity light weaving. And if you would like to come, please let me know. We have 10 spots. We have 2 taken. And I know this is going to be an experience beyond. It's going to take the year of the snake and everything that we just talked about, all the energies, all the possibilities, all the healing, and amplify it because you're going to go through the portal of the equinox, the balance portal, doing a Jaguar ceremony at the Jaguar Pyramid, at the altar of the Jaguar Temple. We're going to be doing activations on the equinox of the solar activation. Please take a look here. I just did a show on that. It's stunning. All my real pictures are there. You're going to feel the energy, and I walk you through what it feels like to be there. Listen to it, tune into it, receive your initiation. We've got to, again, like Geraldine said, we've got to download new life force energy. We've got to change our beliefs into one that receives, one that is supported, one that overflows. There's more than enough life force for me. And we're going to then, the same day on the equinox, go to Chichen Itza, famous site where the solar serpent comes down, and receive a second solar initiation. So I can promise you, if you are ready to shed the past, shed any old beliefs, any old pains, any old fears, step into something new, be supported and loved in the most profound way, connect to some ancient wisdom and magic, and be with me with lots of love and ceremonies and beauty. Reach out to me. In the meantime, namaste. Thank you so much, everybody. I love you. Spread love everywhere. Thank you, Geraldine. Thank you, Neil. Thank you, everybody who's coming. I'll see you soon. Namaste.